Hi, welcome back to Cheyenne Wyoming Urban Gardener. This is Debbie, and I bet you've been wondering where I've been for the last few days. Well, if you go back in a couple of videos, you will be able to find where I had mentioned that there was going to be a garden tour, which was on September 1st here at my home, and that happened yesterday from 5 to 7 p.m., and it was a big success. There was more than 20 people that were out here for the garden tour, and they enjoyed cucumber sandwiches that I made from cucumbers out of the garden, and some fresh dill and some fresh chives. And they also enjoyed some homemade southern sweet tea and some lemonade. So I made all of that, and they got to tour the garden, and it actually lasted way beyond 7 o'clock. I had some people that were hanging around afterwards, and we just had a good time. I actually went through with everybody about 4 times in the garden. And also I've had to spend a lot of time with my grandson the last few days because my daughter has not been feeling well. So she's been taking some classes online. So we have had a lot of things going on, and that's why I haven't really been posting any videos lately. But neither here nor there. We're out here in the garden now, and I'm glad to show everybody what's going on with it. You can see that the corn is really beginning to die back at this point. The tassels on it have become very brittle and look more like they are dried out, and that happens regardless of what you do. Now they're still green as far as all of the greenery on the corn, and we still got all of the beans that are going on up the corn, so I can't really take the corn out. And we do have a few more ears in there that we need to harvest, and then we have a few more ears that we're going to leave on there for seed. And I believe that I'm going to start an Etsy page or something like that to get seeds out to people. And so just you can send me an email or a message. Like, all of my emails and everything are listed in the description below if you would be interested in getting some of the seeds from the garden, especially if you're in garden zone 5A, 5B, and you're looking for things that are acclimated to that gardening zone and have alkaline soil. Or if you don't have alkaline soil, the things will probably actually grow better in an area where you don't have alkaline soil. So if you would like to get some of those seeds and things from me, they are all hand-picked and all dried and packaged and everything like that, then just send me an email or a message, and I will see if I can get that out to you. But anyway, we have had loads and loads and loads of zinnias that have continued to bloom through here like crazy. We've got a little bit of wind happening right now. Always happens in Wyoming. So you can see we finally have gotten some other colors of zinnias out here around the corn. We started off with just basically these over here, which were mostly pink, and we're finally getting some other colors in there and some more blooms that are happening, and I just can't get over this one. This one is kind of a 2-shade color of zinnia. It's just absolutely gorgeous, and I'll be looking forward to saving seeds off of that one. We're going to try to save seeds off of all of these zinnias, and especially the larger ones. I'm not such a huge fan of the small ones, but we definitely want to try to get some more of the colors in there, because like I said, I ended up with a lot of pinks, and I really wanted to have a variation of color, like yellows and oranges and stuff like that. So I'm going to try to get a lot of zinnias with other colors on them. And all of our tomatoes are still doing fantastic. We got the Kellogg's breakfast tomatoes that are finally just knocking it out of the park with tomatoes now. And a lot of people were having fun taking a look at these because they'd never heard of them before. So I introduced them to these Kellogg's breakfast tomatoes. And I just kept telling them, I said, to me, they're kind of an ugly tomato. They're very bumpy, and they get very big, and they're kind of a yellowish orange. And I enjoy them. I think they're nice and sweet and all of that. But, you know, they haven't produced super, super well, and obviously they're way behind the other ones because they were one of the last ones that produced, besides the one that I got from Suburban Homestead or Wyoming/Arizona. So it may be a while before I actually get ripe tomatoes off of this, or I may have to end up just gathering all the tomatoes off of there if we start to get cold weather and rush them in the house and let them go ahead and finish out there. But I did have some super sauce tomatoes today that started changing color, so I did go ahead and pull those and take them into the house. And while I was back there looking around, I did see a tomato that was in there that was about, it's working on 3 pounds at this point. I will weigh it when we get it off of the vine, but it's still very, very green. I'm going to let it continue to grow, and we'll see exactly how big that tomato turns out to be. And I did gather some more tomatillos off of our tomatillo plants, and this is the one that had basically broken, and I had seamed back together. And I had noticed when I was in there looking that where I had pulled it back up and fit it back into those seams, they have healed. Guys, they have healed. So I could technically probably take the strings off of it and it would be just fine. I'm not going to do that because obviously they just healed, but you can see just how beautiful that tomatillo is from me tying it up and everything and fitting it back into those cracks from where it had broken. Now, looking at the beans, we are having a lot of vines dying back, and that's just simply because they're at the end of their life cycle. So they're starting to die back. They have produced and produced like crazy. Like I said, I've been picking about a half gallon to a gallon a day, and I had to leave them for a couple of days when we went on vacation without picking any, and I had so many. When I got back, it was almost 2 gallons by itself. So I don't know if that maybe urged them to start dying off, but that's kind of what happened. Almost immediately after I picked all those beans, the vines started dying back. Now we still have plenty that are nice and lush and green, and we're still getting a lot of beans off of those. You can see the beans hanging in here, like right there. But it is mostly the Kentucky Wonders. The rattlesnake pole beans have pretty much died back, except for a few of them, and we're just going to let the few that are still going go to seed. I'm not going to plant them again next season, but I will save the seed for someone else if they would like to give them a try. I had a lot of people yesterday that were interested in them. And they were also interested in the half runner beans as well, which are still just doing amazing. I've not had any of those die back. And I am starting to get a few cucumbers from the few little cucumbers that I threw in the ground. And they are starting to produce now. So you really can't see them in there. The vines are small, but they have 3 or 4 cucumbers on them, so they're doing pretty well. And I do have an Armenian cucumber started. I just noticed it today. It's still kind of small, but they really get big fast. So I am hoping that we have at least one Armenian cucumber off of these Armenian cucumber vines, and I will start them a lot sooner next season. I was debating on whether or not to start them again because we've had so much bad luck with them, but this is the first season that I've had an Armenian cucumber set, and I'm going to put them in containers next season. And we'll see if we can get some nice big ones from there. And I'll try a much larger trellis on them at that point. And like I said, we had a few super sauce tomatoes that were ready. And that was off of mostly the damaged vines over here. But we still have plenty of green ones on the vines, especially on the back side of them, which you really can't see. And nice large tomatoes at that. Most of them were probably about 8 ounces to a pound. So not super, super huge. They're usually about 2 to 4 pounds. But again, we have the damage on those from the 6 San Marzanos that we had. And I basically have picked almost all of the San Marzanos now off of the vines. We still have some green ones in there. I'm going to let finish on out. And then after that, I'm going to tear those vines out of there and kind of start working with the soil again just to make sure that we don't have any of that disease carry over into the next season. And we just have huge, huge, huge old German tomatoes. You can kind of see how big one of them is now. I would have to get in the garden for you to compare it with my hand, but it's right there. It's on the back side. That is a super huge tomato. It probably is a little bit more than a pound right now. And all of the tomatoes that's on that vine are nice big tomatoes. And then even the giant ox heart is about the same size already. And we're getting a lot more tomatoes in there too, which are a little bit smaller right now. And then we have another old German over here on the end. And that one is really beginning to produce as well. You can see them just hanging. everywhere. A lot of them just started, so we're gonna really focus on these guys to see if we can finish out mostly these tomatoes. And they're all over down in there, everybody. So lots and lots of tomatoes. And we've got more red curry squash that are setting on the vines. The vine has continued to go and go and go, especially around the front. You can just see it's just going and going and going. It's kind of slowed down a little bit now that we're starting to get a little cooler in the evenings. And we did have a couple that didn't get pollinated, and we did have to remove those. But we do have one in here that is just basically started, and it just got huge within a couple of days. And it hasn't even gotten to the red color yet. So it's still pretty new. And then we have loads and loads and loads of red curries in there. And then we even have an acorn squash in there that somehow I got mixed in to the red curry. So we've got some acorn squash in there, and they're actually really, really big back there. So they look really good. They didn't look like they crossed or anything like that, but we wouldn't really be able to know until next season anyway. But I won't be saving the seeds out of those because they were just kind of mixed in with the red curry. So bear in mind that any seeds that I save, I will not be saving seeds from things that were planted very close together, because it just might be cross-pollinated. But the peppers should be fine. They basically are self-pollinated, so they don't really cross that well, even when they're side by side. And I did notice that the peppers that I planted from my seeds are finally producing some peppers now on them. Some of them have gotten some pretty good size ones on them, but I would really have to crawl back in there to find them and show them to you. And then we've got some more zucchini sitting on the zucchini vines, but they're kind of taxing out now. You can see that they are starting to kind of yellow up, stuff like that, and get some spots because they have just produced themselves silly. And then our celery. Everybody was quite amazed at the celery, and I showed them the bunches in there. So if you can actually part the vines, you can see that we have nice big celery in there. Look at that celery. That is tango celery. So, and I did not have to grow it in manure. That is straight in the ground celery. And it is beautiful. Sorry about that. And we have loads and loads and loads of sunflowers. And we are starting to get broccoli heads now, finally. Last time I showed you, I don't think we had any broccoli heads as yet. So let me show you those. There we go. And some of them are a little bit larger and just got started. So we're going to have some nice big heads out of those. And still continuing on with the red Acre Cabbage. So this is red Acre Cabbage. It's supposed to be an early variety, but I've noticed that it always takes a long time for it to finish out. And that's exactly what's happening. But we do have some heads in there, and once they get started, they really get going fast. So it's only been a couple of weeks that they started heading up, and we've even got one of the later planted ones that's starting to try to head up already. That this was with fall planting. So you can see that guy right back there. And it's starting to head up. And then two of the stragglers that we had are starting to head up as well, which is fantastic. So we'll let those finish on out. And we've got loads of daikon radishes and carrots and lettuces. Some of our lettuces went bolt to bolt. So we're going to go ahead and get that pulled out of there and plant some more seeds. So I think we'll have enough time to maybe get some baby lettuce off of that little patch. And let me show you the Boston Marrow at this point. We have a Boston Marrow pumpkin over here, or squash. And look at this guy. It is huge. These are my rutabagas, and it is enormous. Look at that guy. So there you can kind of see the full size of it. And of course it'll still have to turn orange. But it is absolutely enormous. And we've really started to get some nice big dinosaur kale now. It's finally surpassed the size of the beets. And these are a short top variety of beet, I found out. So I kept wondering why the leaves on those were a little bit smaller. And then I looked it up, and the variety of this type of beet actually does not have very big leaves. So you can definitely see the size difference in this versus these. So it's just the the type of beet. And I think I just ate a bug. So that'll be something to laugh about. It flew in my mouth. Protein, yay! So anyway, turnips getting nice and big in there. And they're right beside of the dinosaur kale. And like I said, we've got a couple of Utah celery in there. Got a little bit of browning on the edge of the leaves, but they are still coming right along. And you can see our pumpkin. This is just a regular orange pumpkin. The two of them stacked on each other. Getting nice and colorful now. They're starting to get their color on them. And our white pumpkin still doing very well. Nice and big in there. And we have another pumpkin that has shown up. And I think I've got another one that got pollinated. You can see that one over there. And I think that might be another Boston Marrow. And it looks like we got another one on the end. So who knows, maybe we'll get a couple out of those if the temperatures just hold off a bit. But we do have another pumpkin as well on the vines right here. And it looks like it is just now starting to fleck a little bit. So it will color up nicely. And we're starting to get some radishes in here from the radishes that we planted. And some more Swiss chard that I had planted is definitely coming to size now. So we've got more Swiss chard in there. And our radishes are definitely going to start heading up now. We've started seeing some of them head up. And we do have some acorn squash in there on the acorn squash vines. And again, this is on the north side. So it's a bit trying on them, but they are definitely coming on. And we do have a Big Max pumpkin. Let me pop out here real quickly on the north side. And you can see that guy. And we've got cucumbers too, guys, by the way, on the north side. You can see all along through here, we've got some cucumbers that are sitting on the vines right there. And on the end, that one got pollinated. Yay! So we've got some cucumbers out here on the north side to defy not planting on the north side. So you can see our Big Max pumpkin vine is actually going all the way to the second set of sunflowers now, and this is the one over there. So it's basically wrapping all around here. And we did have a pumpkin set on the vine. Here it is. It's got a little bit of a weird tip on it, but I think that will probably even out the bigger that it gets. And it got so big just basically overnight. And we do have some acorn squash on our acorn squash over here that we just noticed, and it definitely pollinated. And we've got some more working on the other vines. And we've got some nice big strawberries. Look there. All throughout our strawberries. And we've got another cucumber in here that is setting cucumbers on it. They are self-pollinating. So sometimes they will have issues pollinating, but for the most part not. And there's actually a little bit of a space here for honeybees to get down in there and pollinate things. So that's what's going on over here in the north side. So let's go on around to our container garden. And I want to go ahead and stop here to look at those delicata squash again. I've got some really nice big delicata squash now down in there. And I actually have several of them at this point. So those are the ones that you can see right offhand, and I've got a few more back there in the vines. And our rhubarb, for some reason, this is the only red one that we have out of the three. The other two are green. And this rhubarb is just taking off like crazy after sitting basically all summer long with only 3 leaves on it. And now look at the amount of leaves that it has on it. It went nuts. So we finally got our cosmos over here on the east side starting to bloom. And this is alongside our roses. And I wish that you could have seen these roses a couple days ago because they were just so beautiful. So beautiful. And our calendula over here that randomly volunteered is blooming now like crazy. And it has several blooms on it. And it doesn't have any real competition other than artichoke. So it's really just going to town. And our Empress nasturtium bloomed. And it's got a few more bloom heads on it. So I can't wait to show you those. They're a beautiful red color. Very, very rich crimson. And our Kennebec potatoes are finally starting to die back. And basically what I've been doing is I am kind of holding back on the water so much. I'm not watering them quite as often, thoroughly watering them when I do. And it seems to have helped with them starting to die back a little bit, even though they're getting plenty of water. So finally they have really, I've noticed, starting to put on some size on the potatoes. Yes, we have a couple of them sticking out of the ground. And unfortunately, they've already sunburned, so I can't really do a whole lot about that. I've noticed that they will not reverse if you put more dirt on them. So that one is just kind of stuck the way it is. I may just go ahead and save it to keep for seed potato. And that should be okay. That really shouldn't have anything to do with it turning green or anything like that. It'll just be used as a seed potato for next season. And then you can see our Tahitian squash has just basically started going nuts through the potato vines. So I'm looking for a squash to basically start at any point in the potato vines, just exactly like it happened last season. So we're back over here in the north section, in the southern section, in the container garden. So you can just see everything is looking beautiful in there. We've got some white pumpkins in there, but I'm not real sure they're going to do anything. The vines are nice and healthy and big, but the white pumpkins do take quite a long time in comparison with some of the other pumpkins. So I'm not real sure they're going to produce anything. I had a lot of them last season, but I didn't really plant these until sometime in July, and it was just basically to have some more structure for the corn. So I'm not really expecting anything off of these guys because I didn't want a whole lot of room taken up because we wanted more corn this season. But we do have some lemon cucumbers off of the lemon cucumber plant, and you can see one of those right there. And we've got several more that have started on the vines. And I don't even remember what kind of cucumbers or cantaloupes these are that I planted. They're beautiful vines, but I don't even remember what they are at this point. I had them listed in here, and I'm not real sure that I can discern what was on there anymore. Nope, that's actually for the basil. So anyway, I'm not real sure anymore, but it doesn't matter because we have plenty of everything else. Our fennel that we planted is actually starting to bulb up already. So you can see it kind of bulbing there. So I was pretty surprised about that. It just kind of took off while we were on vacation. And I picked so many cucumbers off of these Burpee Pickler cucumbers today. I'll take you inside in a moment and show you how many I picked today off of those vines. And we did start some more dill right here. Just to see if we can get some of it up and going, and then I'll actually take it in the house, hopefully to finish it on out if it starts to get really cold. But I think we may not have to do that. I think we may have the temperatures hold out enough that I can just carry them inside and bring them outside during the day. So we'll see if we can get that done. And our other nasturtiums over here have not really started blooming yet, but once they do, they're supposed to be orange and gold. Typical nasturtiums. The vines are beautiful, but not really showing anything as yet. But we do have a nice Tahitian squash down in those vines. You can see the little stripiness back there. And like I said, I picked so many cucumbers today. It was crazy. And then I picked a bunch of tomatoes off the vines too. And again, we did transplant the yellow pear tomato into a bigger container, and it has really started putting on a lot of new growth, even on the ends of these large suckers that I let go ahead and go. You can see the new tomatoes on there. These are all new little guys. So there's some right there. Just massive amounts of growth on this guy, and it's well more than 6 feet tall now. It just keeps going. And we've actually got a few more tomatoes on the San Marzano that we have over here in a container. So it has pulled out of whatever situation that it had going on, had put on some more new growth because I trimmed everything up, and it started sprouting some new tomatoes. We do have some Crenshaw melons in here. Not sure if they will finish out. But they are actually pretty nice size at this point. So hopefully we'll get something off of these guys. And we got some more Sharon Tay cantaloupes in there. I haven't noticed a whole lot more cucumbers. We had white spine cucumbers in here as well. I've picked a couple, but it seems to have slowed down a bit on the white spine cucumbers. And I think that's mainly due to they just basically have produced themselves basically to death. But the vines are still nice and healthy. I do see some blooms. So you see some blooms on there. So hopefully they'll keep producing. I do see some little cucumbers. So yes, I do think they'll keep producing. And I picked a bunch of cucumbers off of our Space Master over here as well. And we have so many watermelons in here. You can just kind of see them everywhere at this point. And the vines are dying back on these tall baby watermelons because it has gotten cooler in the night. We are down in the mid to low 50s. So that's just the rugged outer edge. But we still have watermelons trying to set on the vines, but I don't expect them to do anything other than what we already have, which we probably have about 15 watermelons on this, guys. So nice large watermelons, and we'll enjoy those. And we still have watermelons on all the other vines as well. Cucumbers on everything. The other Burpee Pickler cucumbers I picked probably 10 off of these guys today. And our Big Jim peppers are starting to get some color on them. Let's see if I can show you those. So you can see they're starting to get some red on them. And we've got another squash over here that has just now started producing. And we've got another bell pepper that started on our bell pepper that we have in a pot over here. We still have 3 cantaloupes left of the Ball 2076, and oh my goodness, were they delicious. We had one that was ready and we ate it. Oh, it was so delicious. Cannot say enough about that one. And still got a couple watermelons here. We still have a watermelon on this guy and another watermelon here. And we're getting some blooms on these little tomatoes over here, but I'm not expecting so much from these guys. But we did have some verbena volunteer in the pot that has bloomed. But these are starting to bloom. I don't know. Maybe we'll see something. I think they're yellow pear tomatoes. So they start blooming kind of early and then just continue to get big. So who knows. And we've got a nice big cucumber off of our Space Master cucumbers back there. But it's really long. And I want it to get a little bit bigger. It's just kind of skinny right now, but really long. So I'm leaving it to get a little bit bigger, and then we'll pluck that one. And we're having a lot of blooms on some of the squash that we planted out here. These are the butterdish squash. And I noticed that the vines don't get very big until they start producing, and then all of a sudden they start getting some bigger leaves. So hopefully we'll get something off of these guys. And these are the Contender bush beans that we planted basically about 3 weeks ago, a little over 3 weeks ago. Look at the beans. Guys, beans on the Contender bush beans in less than 30 days. Crazy. Absolutely crazy. So those are looking nice and healthy. And then we got a bunch of cucumbers, surprisingly, off of these other Space Master cucumbers as well. So I pulled a bunch of those. Looks like this one did not get pollinated or something else happened with this one. Well, it got bitten. And that's probably by a rabbit who probably got sick after eating that. So lost that cucumber. So we do have some failures from time to time, but not very many. And we got loads of colors of cosmos in here, and we still have more zinnias blooming over here as well. And all of them are pink. All of them. So not a lot to say on these guys. They're pink, and I probably will not save seeds off of these just because there's just so much pink. I don't mind pink, but they were all pink. So anyway, that is the garden in a nutshell, what's going on right now. And again, I just hadn't posted because we've had so many things going on here. So anyway, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell for notices on new videos as they come out. And we will see you in the next one.